Good luck and thank you, everybody.
Good afternoon and welcome to the first session of the Summer School of Time, the first European training program on time policies. I am Lia Rese from the Time Use Initiative, and I will be your moderator for today's session. In today's session, we will explore the concept of time policies and time poverty and their impact on the different areas of interaction. For that, we have different experts from local and international organizations that will help us to understand the importance of time in care, time in sustainability, time and its social and economic impacts, and time with the local governments. Before we start with this great session we have ahead today, I will quickly hand over to Marta Junqué, the Director of Time Use Initiative, and who will set the framework of the discussion. Marta, what are time policies and why are they so important?
Thank you, Leah. That's a very fundamental question for the 21st century, as time policies will be one of the key elements to improve the society and to improve our companies and organizations in the coming years. Thank you, everybody, for connecting and for organizing this amazing first summer School of Time Policies, which is very, very much needed. I would like to give you, as Leah was saying, a very brief introduction on what is time policies. Probably most of you that are today connected, you are not familiar with this nomenclature, and you don't know that some of you have time poverty. So I will be very happy to go through this presentation to show you the main concepts of time policies. Let me share my screen and to make sure that you can follow these slides. Very good. So as I was saying, first of all, I would like to present very briefly what is this Time Use Initiative, which is the organization that is organizing the first summer school. Time Use Initiative is the leader organization that around the world is exclusively dedicated to promote the right to time and time policies to make sure that people can have a better organization of time, can have a healthier use of their time, and we look as well for a more egalitarian, efficient, and sustainable society. We were born in Barcelona, and since 2021, we are working worldwide with different governments, with different organizations and companies, helping them to ensure the right to time. And one of the things that we are more proud of is that we are the technical secretariat of the local and regional governments time policy network, which later the councillor of Strasbourg will explain us what is this network about. And also we are part of the executive board of the main association promoting time use research. Taking into consideration what we are and what we are doing, as I promised, we are trying to explain you which is what are time policies. First of all, it's good that we all share the same context. Probably some of you know people that say, I don't have time, I'm stressed, I'm burnout, I need more hours in my day. This is a structural problem that currently all societies are facing. That's why we say that we have a social problem that is time unrest and time poverty. Just to give you three data, the structural sleep deprivation, we live in a society that we don't sleep enough, leads to more than 1 to 2% national GDP losses every year. So it's not good for our health and not good for our organizations not to sleep properly and the amount of hours that are needed. Another important data is that more than 40% of the Europeans consider that currently they are stressed at work. Again, this is not good for our health, not good for our productivity, and not good for our society. And as a result of all of that, we can see that the birth rates are going down and down. So again, people feel that their capacity to organize their work life and their other areas of their life are not enough, that they are not in equilibrium. That's why we need to put time as a problem. We have a problem with time and we need to look for a solution. This problem affects everybody, especially from different social classes, from different gender, and from different nations. But what the research shows us is that the main concept that we have at the moment that we can use is time poverty. In Europe, if you have less than 2 hours per day of free time for you, so after taking into consideration those activities that are necessary for you, work, sleep, and care, if you don't have more than 2 hours per day of free time, it can be considered that you are time poor. So you have time poverty. In Europe, more than 35% of the population has time poverty. And in some regions in Latin America and America and in other countries, these numbers go up to almost 50% of the population. That's why we say that time poverty is one of the problems that need to be tackled in the society of the 21st century. But I don't want to talk about the problem. I think that probably you are all familiarized with that you have a problem with time and that you want to improve. I want to focus on which is the solution. And the solution is a new organization of time. We need to pass from this schema of the 8 hours to work, 8 hours for leisure, and 8 hours for rest, that it was invented more than 2,000 years ago, 200 years ago. We need to reformulate and to think about the life balance diamond as international labor organizations, among other organizations, are stating. What this means is to find a new equilibrium between the hours that we need to work, the hours that we need to leisure, to rest, but also to take into consideration the dimension of care for ourselves, care for our members of the family, but also care for our society. If we don't have care for our society, it's more probable that we don't get involved in society and we don't get involved in democracy, and then is also a social problem. That's why our organization is looking for this new organization, new equilibrium, of time of work. As a result of that, what we need, so to arrive to this solution, what we need is time policies. And time policies is this tool, this tool for designing time policies that are oriented to improve the current or social organization of time. So this tool that can be applied in companies, but also in public governments, where you, every time that you define a policy, you take into consideration which impact this will have in citizens' life. So time policies is more than knowing which are the schedules or the working hours. It's to take into consideration the impact of on people's life when we design public and private policies. And as I said at the beginning, we believe that this will be key for the 21st century. Why? Because they bring benefits, for clear benefits. Health, a more balanced time organizations bring health and well-being to the organizations and to the individuals, more equality. People that suffer time poverty tend to be more women than men. So it brings also equality, efficiency to the organization. Those that have a better balanced time organization, they are more productive. So it's also good for the organization, and more sustainability for the climate, and more democracy. Probably Maria will explain later the results that the Economic and Social Committee have shown, that if people doesn't have time to participate in democracy, they don't have time for themselves. If they don't have time for themselves, they also don't have time enough to participate in democracy. With all that, we have worked with several governments, we have been working with several organizations, and we have already key results. For example, in Spain, we are working with the Spanish government to approve a time use law, which will improve and reduce the working hours for 80% of the employees. Also, we have been working with governments in Europe and Latin America to give time to the caregivers. And 35% of the women have benefit of having 2 hours per week of free time for themselves. Also, we are working with several schools and scientists, and we have been defining what are more healthy schedules in schools, but also in companies. We are working on the concept of the 15 minutes, the city of proximity, to reduce the rush hours in cities. And some cities have reduced around of the 40% of their time on commuting. And last but not least, also, we have been working with governments that have a time chief officer, so a person dedicated to time policies. And those policies have managed to increase 10% of well-being and happiness. So there is results, there is a problem, there is a solution. We have already some results. And how we need to do that, and with that I will finish my presentation, is by working together. Time policies, we need to work together, organizations, governments, civil society, research, and media. This is a new area of public and private policy. So if we all work together, I'm pretty sure that by the end of this decade, we will see that we can have a better time organization in which everybody can live better. Thank you very much, and looking forward for the interventions that today we will have from Marina, Maria, Joanna, and the rest of the speakers. Thank you, Leah.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you very, very much for setting the basis now that we have a clearer idea of what are time policies, what's time poverty, and why we need them so badly to improve our society's health, equality, sustainability, and efficiency. Let's move to the discussion with our experts. Before we dive in, let me quickly run through some housekeeping rules. For our audience, we encourage you to actively participate through the YouTube chat. Feel free to share your thoughts and questions during the session, and make sure you are watching on the YouTube chat and not on our website, as you won't be able to interact there. But yes, if you are in the YouTube web. Also, this session will be recorded and shared on our website later on. So if you miss some part of it, don't worry, you will be able to retrieve it later. Now it's time to start the discussion, and to do so, let me introduce our first speaker. It's a pleasure to welcome Maria Nicolopoulou, who is the Vice President of the European Economic and Social Committee Equality Group and the Vice President of the Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment section. Maria, as Marta was saying before, the European Economic and Social Committee stated that the lack of time affects the involvement of society and civil organizations. So in the light of this, can you tell us why time policies are essential for social and economic aspects?
Thank you, Leah, and good afternoon to everyone. For those of you who do not know, the European Economic and Social Committee, it's a consultative body of the European Union. So we have representatives from different interest groups all over Europe. We have employers' organizations, trade unions, organizations from consumers, farmers, young people, elderly people, women. The whole of civil society is there. And our main task is to get together and prepare opinions as a response to the legislative proposals of the other decision-making bodies of the European Union, mainly the Commission and the Council. So during the preparation of one of these opinions on what conditions are needed for the energy and low-carbon transition to be socially acceptable, we acknowledge that the element of time is a catalyst. And in the ESC, we propose the European Union that We should identify and remove any obstacles responsible for poor public participation, and as a role, giving the communities and civil society organizations the opportunity to participate in project development and decision-making. It increases the social acceptance. And the lack of time, among other things, of course, it's not the only element, but with this citizenship education and the accountability that the authorities should have with the people, the lack of time should also be addressed within an action plan to develop meaningful participation of the people. And of course, the concept of participation does not only apply to the energy transition. Each and every one of us, we have different roles in life. No, we are workers, we're consumers, we're parents, daughters, sons, friends, whatever, no? And we are also citizens. And it's a very, very long list with different aspects for each and every one of them, of us. But what I'm trying to say is that each aspect of our life needs to have time. We need to dedicate time. And generally speaking, at least the last thing we do with our time is to be active citizens. And active citizenship meaning having time to be informed, first of all, and then having time also to get involved, be it in engaging in community or volunteering work, being in having an active role in a citizens-led project. And me, for example, I mean, my other role in life is also being part of the time banking movement in Spain. So we are getting this network of people that they want to exchange services, and we have people approaching us asking for information. Everybody loves the project, but they do not engage because they do not have time for that. And when we're talking about the decision-making process, not only on a European level, but also on our community level, it requires time. We've just had the European elections, and in every elections that we are being part of, we see the mistrust of people towards politics. We see there is more and more disconnection. And one of the things that people actually say, arguing against voting or the system, is I don't go to vote because they only think of me every 4 years, every 5 years when they need my vote. And this is not entirely true, because there are several spaces and ways to participate and be part of this participatory process of the decision making, but people do not have time neither to find out about these spaces, and even if they do, they usually don't have time to actually be part of it. And of course, participatory processes and consultation coming from the administration has a lot of room for improvement in terms of the setup and in terms of the outcomes, but they exist. So freeing time for people and giving them the opportunity to get involved, it will improve not only the quality of the decisions, because consensus among the different stakeholders always brings us to better solutions. It would help elected representatives, it would help the administration, and it will improve the quality of our democracies. And in the ESC, we also discussed about the role of time policies when it comes to the implementation of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As you know, it's not only environmental agenda, it's also, there is a focus of boosting economic and social transformation. And in this sense, time policies to better organize our timetables, for example, or the working time, the leisure time, and other aspects of time in people's lives, it would have a positive impact on mental health. If we manage to better reconcile our family life and our working life, it can improve kids' performance as well at schools, as they will improve their sleep, as Marta was mentioning, and of course, productivity at work. And this is probably more linked to the economic aspects of time policies. We see from the data collected from the OECD and the Eurostat that there is no direct relation between productivity and working long hours. For example, Germany, who is above the average of the EU productivity rates, is the country with the shorter working days. And Bulgaria, on the other side, on the other end of the graph, which is the lowest ranking EU country in terms of productivity. In 2022, according to the OECD data, each worker worked 278 hours more than in Germany. It's almost 35 working days, so it's a lot of time. So I think it's safe to say that in the current situation that we're living with all this digitalization and technology explosion, we see that productivity is not linked only on how much time we work, but it's even more important the efficiency of the way we work. So we can envisage having measures that help our work-life balance, such as, for example, the reduction of working time. And working longer hours is not, as Marta mentioned it already, to some extent, it's a factor that workers identify as a cause of anxiety and depression, which also has an impact on the economy, not only for the companies who struggle to get by and to continue their workflow when people are on leave sick, but also for the social security systems that they are meant to take care of these people. So to sum up, I strongly believe that the better organization on the way we spend our time and freeing up time for the people will have a positive impact for the individuals, first of all, but most importantly for the communities and the society as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. That was super interesting. I would say that I made a great overview of all the different aspects that time policies touch upon, and thanks for that, for improving our democracy. We need time, but also for keep us healthy and for improving the productivity of our organizations. Now I would like to introduce our next expert, Fanny Maddini, Partnership and Advocacy Expert at City Resilience Global Program of UN Habitat. Fanny, I would like you to tell us a little bit on how can we connect time with sustainability, or do you have any innovative approach into integrating these two aspects, or how can we go basically from a city that steals our time to a city that saves our time?
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this session. So first of all, I work for the City Resilience Global Program. So it's UN Habitat's technical partner for urban resilience. What do? We help cities increase their resilience by diagnosing the state of their urban system, by sharing and building knowledge and capacity for policy making, and by recommending concrete actions to increase resilience. What is urban resilience first? Our short definition is the ability for any urban system with its inhabitants to maintain continuity through all shocks and stresses while positively adapting and transforming toward sustainability. So now what is the relation, or what can we make, what kind of relation can we make between urban resilience and time policies? Urban and time planning are directly connected. In general, urban planning directly impacts the time it takes to do things. There are different interesting theories that are well known and that I am sure you already have heard about. Before you talked about the 15-minute city, there's also the 30 minutes territories, and there's also the chrono-urbanism, this concept. Chrono-urbanism, I think it's really interesting, and it refers to the integration of time management into urban planning. This approach considers how city schedules affect the daily lives of its inhabitants and seeks to optimize the distribution of time in urban space to improve quality of life, efficiency, and sustainability. For example, this may include coordinating public transport schedules with work schedules or strategically distributing services to minimize commuting. We know that cities and neighborhoods with greater density and proximity are more sustainable. People use their time in a more efficient way, and it reduces environmental impacts, enhancing urban resilience and increasing the adaptive capacity of the city. Density and proximity are also important when analyzing economic systems and their resilience. Fostering local economies where producers and consumers share a territory with a short time distance from each other helps reduce the time goods spent in transportation and helps reduce, for example, air pollution or food waste. So here we see that time, economy, and sustainability are and must be closely linked to build a sustainable future and reduce GHG emissions. Proximity is also crucial in time management and efficiency, but also in social relationships. It is certainly easier to have your social network living next to you, for example, when you have to take care of young children or elderly people. And for developing solidarity within a community during a crisis, for example, during COVID. When we talk about social resilience, we refer to the capacity of the people or a community to adapt to different stresses and shocks. Also, time management can influence on mental health and the well-being of a population. Finally, there's another concept in urban resilience that I think it's important to mention, and it's the proximity to nature, parks, and public spaces. I'm convinced that when people have easy access to nature and public spaces, where they can take the time to rest, to meet with people, it impacts positively and directly on their mental health and their well-being. When I was a city councillor in Montreal, we experienced that in some cases. Taking out cars, for example, from local commercial avenues had a lot of benefits for the residents and businesses. For example, it improved the air quality on that street, helped businesses, enable restaurants and cafes to use the public spaces to expand their outdoor terraces, which made the street more dynamic and lively. And most of all, it gave the opportunity to the people to spend more time on the streets, on public places, in a more pleasant and secure way. It allowed, for example, children to play in a safe environment and enabled artists to promote their art. So thank you. I tried to give a different example where urban planning affects directly on the conception of time in our cities and how it is related to urban resilience. Please feel free if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fanny. That was super interesting. We are now dropping a new concept of chrono-urbanism, the connection of time and urban planning, and the concept of city proximity that, as we were discussing before, it's a concept that connects a lot as well with the time policy. So thanks a lot, Fanny, also for that great summary and for the example that you shared. Now I would like to introduce another area that connects time in a quite strong way, which is at the connection that happen with time at the local level. And for that, I invite Marina Lafay, which is the councillor of the Strasbourg City Council and actually the World Capital of Time of 2024. Marina, why are time policies essential, especially at the local level, and how can they help us to make a city face all the challenges of this 21st century?
Yeah, thank you, Leah, and thank you for the presentation before with concrete example. It's very interesting. So to answer to your question, so you asked me how temporal policies can respond to contemporary issue, especially in local level. We have perhaps to say what issue we are talking about. I want to insist about three issues, perhaps. The question of feminism and women's rights, first of all, and also the social inequalities and poverty, and the question of discrimination, and Marta has talked about that with the question of time poverty, and also in the third issue is the question, perhaps, of democracy, renewal of democracy and populism. These are subjects I think we share in several European territories and in the and also in the world. These are concrete problems, and it concerns all levels, European level, for instance, national level, and also local level. And it's important to develop time policies at local level because it's also give us solution to fight this issue, to find some solution. Firstly, because people don't know who does what at different level, and oftenly, it's often at the local level that it's addressed in the first time. So these subjects are not new. There is a lot of to be done, and with a certain urgency, oftenly. That's why we need, I think, to multiply our action from the European level, national level, for instance, including the local level and the local neighborhoods. Over the past 30 years, temporal policies, I think, have taken up these challenges. I have tried to list before. First issue about the gender inegalities. It is a real subject at local level, and the temporal policy can help us to find solution. Believe me, women are quick to see that we are talking about when we introduce time policies, because they have some problem in the daily life balance. They're running around all the day. They are being afraid to be late to pick up the kids, for instance, and yes, many problems in the daily life. So city can try to find ways to be more flexible, for instance, about childcare hours, offers babysitting hours. For instance, Strasbourg offer babysitting hours, for instance, during the democracy meeting that we organize. We have always a babysitter for the young parents. At the same time, we need to reduce inequality between men and women and pay attention for that through data, for instance. In Strasbourg, we have, a major line. The budget is gender-sensitive budget. That means, for instance, for sports activities, the purpose is that we have to spend just as much on women as on men. In this case, we need also to think in terms of an adapted services offering with suitable opening hours for women of all ages. It is also to promote women's sport and to say that taking care of yourself, time for sport or for hobbies, it is also a right. That is the links with Marta when she explained the right to time. In our territories, we have gender inegalities also, but huge inegalities in general. And that's time also that the politics for women to improve their daily life balance is also benefits for all the citizens. The women's rights progress can make progress for everyone, especially the poorest and the more isolated people. So I think at this level, city work with over territorial level and with the state in the first time. We can also demonstrate to the state level that through small scale projects, we can find some solution and how time policies can help us. For instance, I am a district councillor in Strasbourg, and when I have meeting with governments, departments, or where with elected representative people at national level, I'll talk about temporal policies always and about the question of time poverty. We have to develop the social policies with this aspect and convince the state also and European level to do the same. But at the local level, we can show how it works and the progress we can add with that. We know that for to offer quality of services to all inhabitants, we need also infrastructure and staff. We need also money, but the people also, they need time to take advantage of its services. And that's why the concept of quarter-hour city is also very important, that the idea of the 15 minutes city, yes, it's very important because it can serve our purpose. So it is a link with the idea of the urban policies, can have links with the time policies. Also, perhaps the question of democratic renewal, it's begin at the local level, and we can draw inspiration what Italian women were able to do 30 years ago in the north of Italy. That's the beginning of the time policies 30 years ago in the region of Milan. They have proved that we can change the daily life for women. And it was very interesting is in this experience, it is that time policies came from the bottom up, from the woman directly on the base. That was women. They had difficulties they were always late, for instance, to pick up the child, and they decided to speak with the elected people and find together a solution. So also to renew the democracy, time policies is also very good inspiration, I think. So I think my time is over, so I will perhaps stop here, but we have many inspiration and solution to find with time policies in our territories, and to show at the other level how it works, and the experiences we have in the network show us the progress that we can find with that. So I think it's a good inspiration.
Thank you very much, Marina, for indeed a comprehensive approach of all the areas that time policies connect in with the local level, that, as we say, the local level is the closest to the people's needs. And also, as you were saying, right, how a small scale and bottom-up projects usually are the ones with the biggest impact. So we will look forward to hear more about the network and what is Strasbourg doing this year regarding that. And now, last but not least, it's time to also open the floor to a very crucial area of connection, that is that of time and care. And for that, I invite our next speaker, Johanna Shima, the Vice President of the organization Make Mothers Matter. Johanna, how do you think time policies can address the issue of time poverty that, as Marta was mentioning at the beginning, affects 34% of the European women with children? And what is this concept of motherhood penalty that your organization advocates for?
Thank you, Leah. Just quick words about the organization I work with. Is an international NGO representing and defending and advocating for the rights of mothers in front of the EU, the UN, and UNESCO, and federating a network of members across the globe. Yes, and so what is the link between time poverty and motherhood penalty? As we all know, in millions of homes around the world, mothers fulfill a vital role, that is by working tirelessly to ensure that the families are nurtured, are educated and healthy. And this essential and paid family care work sustains families, communities, and societies in general. In Europe, women, that is mainly mothers, still undertake most of the housework, that is 79%, to 36% of men. When it comes to a specific services of caring activities like personal and physical care and emotional support, this task also heavily fall in women, 49% to 6% of men. do these have these care responsibilities. And according to EIGE, that is the European Institute of Gender Equality, care responsibilities and household duties are highlighted as key time issues. In fact, this unequal distribution of care responsibility has implications for mothers, affecting their pay and pension gaps, their employment opportunities, the advancement in their careers, and improvement on their professional skills, their participation in social and leisure activities, as it was mentioned, the engagement in education and training activities on their health and the health of their children, and many others. In some mothers experience economic and social injustices. This is usually what we refer to as motherhood penalty, that is, the economic penalties and discriminations that women who have children encounter when they start having children. And these pay gaps and these inequalities start with the arrival of the first child and increase as the number of children increases. That means that time poverty further adds to the motherhood penalty. In the EU today, we have a gender pay gap that stands at 12.7%, and the pension gap, that is the culminant point of the addition of all these pay inequalities accumulated over the life course, stands at 29. That means that women are more likely to fall under the poverty line as they get older. According to a EU parliamentarian, Lina Galvez, in her report, Women's Poverty in Europe, to which MMM we contributed, she says that women more regularly put their careers on hold or take a short part-time precarious or even informal employment that can be adapted to its caregiving schedule. And she adds that poverty is a highly complex phenomenon arising from many interconnected factors, not all of which are monetary in nature, and material poverty worsens time poverty, is worsened by time poverty. Among mothers, there are some mothers, I'm sorry, not yet, they're here in this slide. Among mothers, there are two categories that are especially vulnerable to poverty. One is single mothers. Statistics show that female poverty is heavily concentrated in households headed by single moms, and this has a direct impact on children as well. 85% of these single mother parent homes are headed by women, and in 2020, 42.1% of the EU population living in these single parent homes with dependent children were at risk of poverty or social exclusion. And the other group is mothers at a retirement age, which face higher risk of poverty because they have accumulated and reduced their working hours, left the labor market, and accumulated, of course, pension and income gaps. On the other hand, as we know, care is not only essential for the families and society, but also while caring for others, mothers and fathers develop a new set of skills, the so-called soft skills, that could contribute to social inclusion, personal development, empowerment, better employability, but these skills are not valued. So which are the steps that governments, civil society, organizations, and business alike can take to readdress this balance and relieve women's heavy share on unpaid care work? Because this is a collective endeavor. We can summarize it by the 3 R's: recognize, reduce, and redistribute unpaid care work. These are at Make Mothers Matter, we made these 10 recommendations, among many others, to reduce and to help to these 3 R's. One is that to implement at national levels longer and well-paid parental leaves to provide parents with a real choice if they want to take care of their own children without being economically or professionally penalized. Second, that it's essential that fathers have the ability, culturally, financially, and time-wise, to take an active role in upbringing their children. Third, we call for the right to flexible working conditions or arrangements. We are asking more than what was introduced with the work-life balance, with the right to ask for flexible working conditions. 4, we ask to provide childcare services that are accessible, affordable, and of a high quality, and to support also other forms of childcare that are family-centered and respectful of families' choices and children's development. This could be family-based community services, guardians, childminders, and other different systems that exist. 5, we call for the introduction of the care credits to offset employment breaks for employment taken to provide informal care, and to count those credits towards pension entitlements, and to promote what in some countries exists, that is to the support of also via these care credits for grandparents who also help parents. That means we are also asking here for benefiting something that benefits the 3 generations. 6, we also advocate for a life cycle approach, because we know that mothers want to be active in the labor market, but also spending time educating and caring for their children. And only a life cycle approach, rather than a linear one, allows men and women re-enter and leave the labor market without being penalized. 7, to incentivize employers to implement family-friendly policies, such as the family-friendly certificate by family or the certificate in conciliation by Más Familia. 8, to develop validation mechanisms and learning tools for carer soft skills. 9, to collect data across the EU, and I'm very happy that Strasbourg is already implementing that, and to design this exactly as what Marina was saying, gender-sensitive European time use surveys. And 10, consider unpaid care work as essential work, giving access to social rights, access to social security, education, training, etc., and to redefine work as a holistic concept, combining both paid and unpaid care work. So in conclusion, what do we ask for? We advocate for a comprehensive set of solutions to reimagine our priorities and enhance the lives of mothers and all caregivers, acknowledging the indispensable role of care in our societies and address the numerous injustices that mothers face. As MEP Lina Galvez mentioned, the fight against women's poverty is not just about equality and social justice. It's a path to fight against childhood poverty and therefore working for a dignified future for everyone. We also believe that our current economic system, fails women, especially mothers. And we must ensure that the involvement of mothers and fathers in the labor market aligns with both personal and societal development, rather to serve merely to the economic demands of the society. And as former UN General Secretary Guterres highlighted, our system is built on flawed assumptions, notably just the fiction that unpaid care work is not work, and the lie that free markets can deliver health and well-being for all. Finally, we believe that supporting mothers and fathers in their giving roles should not be viewed as expenses to be minimized, but as a vital investments that contribute to the well-being of individuals and the planet in general. Many thanks.
Thanks a lot, Johanna. That was super interesting. And as we have seen, we have a great point in common, which is acknowledging the indispensable role of care in our society, and to better balance it, how time is crucial for that, right? In many, many ways. So thanks a lot for your intervention. And now to connect all that we have discussed so far and all the different areas of intersection with time, which I believe it has been mentioned, right? The hot topic of the week, which are the European election and how time connects with democracy. I would like to ask each of our speakers, what would be your recommendations for the next members of the European Parliament on duty? Or in other words, if you have the power to introduce 3 time policies in the European agenda for the next mandate, which ones will they be? Maria, let's start with you. Which will be the three?
It's hard to make me pick three. They're also so complementary to each other. I suppose the first one that I would ask for, which is actually in the remits of the European Union, is to abolish decisional clock change. This was partially what the Commission wanted to do a few years ago. It is, of course, the responsibility of the member states afterwards to decide on which time zone they should stay. But I really believe it will have immediate positive effects in the quality of the sleep of many people, especially in countries like Spain, for example, that we are completely in the wrong time zone. And of course, we've seen clearly better sleep contributes to improving our physical and mental health, which consequently improves people's performance everywhere. I mean, at school, at our day-to-day lives, at the university, at work, you name it. Then I think that the aspect of solid data is very, very important. Joanna also mentioned it. We need solid data and frequent data and standardized data in order to be able to make better future decisions and to design policies. So the EU has the capacity, in collaboration with the member states, to collect standardized data and do a methodology, a valid methodology. We could perfectly use the Harmonized European Time Use Survey on a regular basis. So I think this would be an easy push. And I think the third one, the one that is closer to my heart, to promote and finance the setting up of different time banks in every member state. Time banks, they're a very powerful tool to work the social cohesion, to the community participation, and it's actually a free time generator as a project. We can delegate tasks that we do not like to do to other members of the network, of the community, and just focus on the ones that we really enjoy. For example, I hate ironing. I hate it. And I never have time for ironing. But if somebody comes and tells me, Maria, I want to have a coffee with you and I want you to help me organize my trip to Greece for the holidays, I will make time for that. So to some extent, it's a question also to be able to choose the tasks that are more meaningful to us in this sense.
That's great, Maria. I would also sign up for exchange some time on moderating if someone can iron my clothes. But let's work on that on the next session. Just a small note, we will also discuss a little bit more the idea of ending with the clock change here in Europe in tomorrow's morning session. So if you're interested in this topic, which is a quite hot one as well in Europe, please stay tuned in the summer school. Now, Fanny, which three would be your recommendations for next European mandate?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. This is a big question because there's still so many things that has to be done. But let's say at the European level, it's so important to promote more sustainable transportation within Europe. I mean, it's not possible that in 2024, taking the plane for short trips, it's still more, it costs less money than to take the train, for example. That is way more sustainable, a sustainable transportation solution. So I think that it's certainly one of the different priorities. As I said, there's so many priorities, but if I look more in the urban resilience, urban system, urban planning strategies, then also I think it's so important that the European Union can help local governments in their transportation and sustainable transportation strategies. So I know I'm still talking about transportation, but it's a big issue in Europe. It's a big issue in most of the big cities. Why? Because most of the GHG emission within the cities or a big part of it come from transportation. So that's a big issue with a lot of negative impacts for the population, security, public health, and so on. And then also, I would like to talk about data. I think data is so important because without data, we cannot make a good diagnostic of a situation. We cannot then do a good analysis of a situation, and then we cannot take good decisions. So access to data, access to scientific data and expertise, I think is really important, and to help governments to have access to this data and expertise and scientific expertise. I think it's really, really important. Thank you.
Thank you, Fanny. Yes, indeed, sustainable transportation. Hopefully, it's a topic that will not drop so much in the European agenda in the next mandate. Now, same question to you, Marina. What do you think, which 3 time policies would you recommend for our European institutions to address?
So same question, but perhaps same answer, because I'm very agree with Maria and Fanny that we have to encourage cities and rural territories also to collect data on the rate of the life of their inhabitants and their schedules, and build perhaps this to participatory democracy, but also with links to the network cities of time policies as our European network, because we have also to share this data, to compare it, to find together some common solution. So that's the first answer for me. But the second proposal is that to do that, we need also money. That we need also that the temporal policy should be included in the European Union called project, because yes, we need study experts, and also that we have to pay it. And the third proposal is in the manifesto of our network. It's the idea that the European Union must incorporate a holistic view. It's a systemic view. It's not very easy to do it, but to have a more systemic view of lifetime balance between work, care, rest and recreation in all strategy. So it's perhaps very important in the Commission for Work, Commission for Health, for instance, I think. And we have to promote that with the new elected people yesterday. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. We will work on that. Before I can share a little bit more about this manifesto that Marina was mentioning, I want to also give the opportunity to Johanna to tell us which 3 time policies do you think should be the priority for next members of the European Parliament?
Thank you, Leah. Well, of course, we agree with everything that has been said. I think for making mothers matter and making their life better, I think the first is, as Marina just mentioned, a holistic view of life balance that includes work, care, rest, recreation in all the strategies. I think that could have a greater impact in the life of mothers. The second, I would say, goes also hand in hand with this one. And the third one as well is flexibility in working time. And the third one is equal sharing of care, because as I previously mentioned, care is a collective endeavor. So we all need to take care of each other. But as mothers, as main carers in the society and shouldering the big amount of care, this should be equally shared among society. And just the last maybe point, I believe that care, and we have to come from that idea that care is a burden. Care is not a burden. Care is very important for society, and therefore we need to share it, we need to value it, and we need to acknowledge the need that we have all in our society of caring for each other, caring for our kids, for the society, for the environment. So I think I stop there.
Thank you, Johanna. Yes, indeed. That's something we all hope for. Thanks everyone for your participation. In case you want to check more about these recommendations, you can, I invite you to visit the Manifesto on Time Policies that we have on our website, where you will also find a list of the members of the European Parliament, some of them recently elected, who have endorsed this manifesto and therefore the introduction of time policies in the EU agenda. Now it's time to open the floor to our audience. We invite everyone watching us on the YouTube chat to ask questions to our speakers. And meanwhile, also to help the ball to start rolling, we will launch some polls in the YouTube chat to also incentivize your participation. Actually, the first question it's something that touches upon all of us, and I believe will open the debate in a kind of crucial way, which is, do you consider yourself to be someone who has time poverty? Yes or not? I'm quite intrigued to see the answers of that question. And now I also want to invite all of our speakers to join us to also enhance this debate. As we launch the poll, we will also be inviting our speakers to answer some of the questions. I believe we already have one question already set in the chat, which is about the connection again of time and care. Do time policies propose any way to involve men in care or relocating some time for care? I will address this question to Marta, who I think she knows a lot of time policies and has a lot of time policies in her pocket, and probably will be able to answer this question.
Thank you, Leah. What a fantastic panel. It was very nice to listen to Maria, Marina, Joanna, and Fanny. Thank you very much. Regarding the question on care and time policies. Time policies, we always say that now we are in the second generation of time policies. Time policies started in Italy and in France around 1980, when especially women were saying the type of organization that we have, it's not enough. No, so we want to have time to care. Time to care. That was the first petition. And that's what we call the first generation of time policies, which were very linked to care policies and to gender policies. Now, as Marina also was mentioning before, we are moving forward and also relating the importance of this time organization with other elements, as Fanny has mentioned, regarding urbanism, regarding mobility, as Maria has mentioned, on productivity, and also as on climate sustainability. Taking that into consideration, there are three main areas that men are becoming, that help men, or supports that men are more active in the care tasks. The first one is to make clear time policies on these regards, and some examples of them have been done in Bogota, Colombia, but also in several European cities, as in Barcelona, Catalonia, that are programs destined to give free time to women, and some of them ask as a counterpart that men needs to ensure some of this time that woman is having as a free times, they need to gather and make and have them the task of care. Another important thing when we design time policies and care, as all the speakers have already said, is the importance of having data. If we don't have data on how tasks are being distributed among men and women, it's very difficult to design and to evaluate these policies. So here you can see many examples of time use surveys that are run by countries around the world. USA does it every year. They have time use data, but also in Europe, we have almost every 5 to 10 years, depending on the country. And in Latin America, recently, many countries have been starting to compile time use data. Also in Japan, they have a very good reference, but it's important that we can have this time use data around the world. And the last part for answering this question, Dia, I would add that many governments are doing a lot of sensibilization to ensure that men also have care responsibilities. So giving data on how it is at the moment, the situation, but also showing how good it's for the society that men have a higher implication on care.
Thank you, Marta. That's quite interesting. And also to share some of the results we are having already from the interaction in the YouTube chat. 72% of our audience believe they have time poverty, which I believe it's a quite not surprising and still shocking number if we see that it's a quite common problem. So we should start addressing it as soon as possible. Also, from the second question of in which area do we think time policies we should concentrate more and we should prioritize, time and care was the one that received most of the votes, with 66% of the audience considering that this is a quite important need we should address. Also, second time, social and economic impact, sustainability, and local governments, which again, we believe they are quite crucial for addressing this issue. Now, I will love to turn to our speakers once again. If you want any of you to discuss this feeling, if we feel time poverty and how can we address it on the one side. And then another question that I have in mind is, if you have to think of the main challenges that we have to face to introduce time policies in the agenda, which one do you think these are and how can we face them? I leave it to you if anyone feels like answering this question.
Can I jump in?
Yes, please.
To the question if I feel that I have time poverty, I think I have time chaos, to be honest. I mean, if you take my whole week, there are days that I don't even have time to go to the toilet, and other days that I'm completely free. So the average is okay, but it really depends on the day. Now, in terms of the challenges, especially on a European level, I think the main challenge is for people to understand what you're talking about. It's not yet widely known as a concept. It might need a little bit of training for others, and especially for the policymakers to see this with a perspective of time, to see everything is related to time anyway. But we need a little bit more of an awareness raising, and especially on an EU level, there is a problem that we face in general with all the policies that have to do with the social aspects, the subsidiarity issue. The European Union has several competences. They can issue legislation for the climate, the economy, agriculture, the single market, but they have very small competences on the social part. And this is what the member states mostly use as an argument when they do not want to advance precisely towards the direction. So this is a much wider discussion on the future of the EU, no? And to what extent we should focus on broadening the competences of the European Union or give more power to the member states, no? But I think this is one of the main ones for just now.
Thanks a lot, Maria. Yes, indeed. We, as the organization, the main organization promoting time policies, we, of course, have already identified the rising our awareness as one of the main challenges that we have ahead, right? That's why we have this amazing summer school to introduce the concept of the time policies and to start generating some debates and some awareness around it. Now, also to share with our speakers other results of our poll. do you think our local governments should invest more in developing and implementing time policies? And the answer is yes, with a strong 85% of the people in the chat. So indeed, we have a lot of work ahead for people working in local organizations. And also one of the main areas that our audience has highlighted as an area to improve the organization of time is work-life balance. So here we also have another aspect that is the one that concerns the most the people watching us. Yes, Marta, so you have raised your hand or was, yeah.
Thank you. I think that it's very good to have this feedback that you are giving from the audience, no, to know as well the feelings. It's good to know that the audience that is following us today, they consider they have a time poverty, and that's probably why they are here. But it's not good to be poor in time. What I mean is everybody likes to say that they have a very busy agenda, especially, no, it's a symbol of status sometimes, like, oh, I am very busy. I don't know when I will be able to meet you. But having time poverty, it is related on having more problems of health, related to having higher cancer possibilities, less capacity of sleep, less capacity to disconnect. That's not good for you, or no, it's not good also for your company or your organization that you are working. And absolutely, it's not good also for the society that we are living in. So just to emphasize, because Maria was saying, yeah, it's important to generate awareness. The problem is real and it's here at the moment, and we need to tackle. Maybe people is not on the streets still saying, I want to have time policies, but they are on the streets saying that we want a new work-life balance organization. That it's really happening, and that's why we say that it's one of the clear debates on the 21st century. And just ending with that, local, I think that also it's very interesting of today, listening to some people that are working at the European level, which is at the supra-state level, but also some people working at the local level, because time policies need to be faced at the different levels with different competences. And especially local authorities have been historically those that have more time policies, but they can do a big part, that it's the day-to-day part. But working legislations, all these things depend on the state level and at the supranational level. So it's important that these levels also get involved.
Thank you, Marta. I will give the floor to Marina, who also raised her hand.
Yeah, shortly to answer to a question. I would like to say that for time policies or care policies, I think that the local, European, national level have to obey that the idea that a solution that increases inequalities or maintains inequalities is not a good solution. It's a bad solution, which must be worked on always. So if we see some an increase of inequalities, we have to stop it and work on again. I think it can be a solution to have some time policies and in the same time genders policies, for instance. Yes.
Indeed. Thank you, Marina. Johanna, I saw you also raising your hand.
Yes, I just wanted also to answer to the question. I think I agree that we have to work on the local level, is very important, on the national level, on the European level, in order to make really a systemic change, because everything is linked together. And I agree with Maria, who says that unfortunately at the EU level, for example, the social agenda is not the most yes, prestigious, I would say, or maybe there is a lack of responsibility towards this area, whereas there are many ways of bringing this into the agenda, as in other fields. And I would like to stress what I said before. investing in these social policies is an investment. It's an investment that really pays for the well-being of our families in general. I am very happy to see that many people in the audience are asking and are talking about this care, time to care. And time to care is now. With COVID, we saw it. We value it, and we need to make an investment in care policies at all the levels in order to make a real change and to bring well-being. That's what we want to everybody. So investing and not being worried about expenses.
Thanks a lot, Hannah. Yes, Fanny.
Yes, thank you. Also, I think that when we were talking about the priorities, I talk a lot about transportation. That is quite important when we talk about time and how our time is used during a day, for example. But also, for sure, it's so important to talk about climate change and how it will impact, how it is impacting right now our lives and how it will impact in our future. And housing. Housing is a big issue, and sometimes it can have a big impact when you have lower revenues. For example, maybe you live in neighborhoods that are less connected with transportation, services, and so on. So that's another, let's say, another priority, another big challenge that we are all facing. Also, I wanted to say that in order to conceive good new policies, it's so important to have the collaboration of the different sectors of the society. I mean, we need political will. We need grassroots organization. We need private sector, public sector. We need experts from universities to work all together in order to understand the needs of all of these different organizations, people. And I think it's only when you understand the needs of everybody that you can have a good and comprehensive and efficient policy in the future.
Yes, indeed, Fanny. I think that's also quite a crucial aspect, how the different actors, private, public, international organization can work together and cooperate towards making time policies something that is more central in all of our agendas. Just for our speakers to know, I will also share some of the results of these questions. How much are you familiar with the concept of time policies before this session? So 37% of the audience was very aware of the concept of time policies. 37% was not aware at all, and 25% was somewhat aware. So I think what we're doing today is essential for making all these new people getting into our frame of time policies and helping them understand why we are all advocating for them from all of our different areas of expertise. We also have another question from the chat, which is if we have the materials of the data of time poverty. Actually, this is based on what Marta was commenting before, which is the time use surveys that we are expecting some results during this year, but I'm not sure, Marta, if you want to comment further a little bit on where can we find more information about time poverty.
Yeah, sure. There are many governmental websites where you can find information on time poverty. Also, United Nations, especially in Latin America, is making an effort to standardize the methodology to estimate this time poverty. And I think that it's value to take into consideration that in USA they do the time use survey every year, so you can have national results on what is going on every year. And in Europe, as you were mentioning, Leah, now we are in the third wave of time use surveys. So some countries as Finland and Germany have already the results of the time use survey that they have run in the last year after the pandemic, that they can compare in the results with 10 years ago. And most of the European countries will have these numbers during 2025. Among them, Catalonia, Spain, France. So it will have a lot of information to be able to see as well how after the COVID pandemic, we have changed or not our time use habits, and which is the impact on it. So again, for those that have that want more clear reference on time use poverty, I just will say that to check the websites.
That's great. Thank you, Marta. Now, as we draw to a close, I would like to thank all of our speakers once again for your participation. I'm definitely sure that your contributions will resonate with all the ones who were listening to this session in the YouTube chat and in the YouTube web. Now I would like to invite Marina Lafay, representing the World Capital of Time of Policies 2024, City of Strasbourg, to share her closing remarks.
Thank you very much. So to close the session, I would like to present to you the program in Strasbourg for this year, because we are so European and World Capital for Time from March until March. So Strasbourg, as you know, is a capital of Europe. The Parliament is here. So our role is to be a place where many networks meet, experts, politicians, and lobby, also think tank, and so. So we'll talk about time policies all the year long. But we would like also to insist about the subject. You have mentioned it, the question of care. In particular, to make progress on care for women especially, but care for parents, for instance. We would like to make progress to help the family caregivers in charge of children, old people. Also, the question of old people is also a very important issue today and for the next year. And we want to invite the new elected people to protect this time and recognize this time, dedicate to the other. But in the same time, we would like to insist about the ideas that the people who are in charge of the care, this is not for them a sacrifice. They have also to need time for themselves. That is also the link with the idea of right to time. And the question of right to time was also, there was a study with the Council of Europe. So we have a beginning of recognition of this time, and we want to continue to make progress with the law with the new elected people. So that is the idea of our main event in November. In 28 and 29 November, we will be in the Parliament in Strasbourg with some experts, with the new elected people, with the members of the Parliament, and with the networks also, and a lot of representative people of our city in Europe and over the world also. So it is important. I would like to invite you to join us for this event in November. And also I'm very, very happy because Leah, you asked some question about the importance of care policies and the links between care policies and time policies. And so all the response show us that is a very huge subject today. The time policies have, they make, we have made on the past a big reflection about the question of work. And now it's time to think, I think about the leisure time, the free time, and in this time, the question of time for care. It is very crucial today because if we don't study that, if we don't collect data for that, and if we don't find solutions for that, we will increase inequalities or maintain inequalities, and we don't want these inequalities yet. And yes, it's time also to renew with the beginning of the time policies. I mentioned this woman in North Italy who fight against the discrimination and the right to have valid facilities for their daily life. So it's also very crucial for us today. It's a social policies, and I think Europe needs that, some concrete solution for everyone in Europe. And that is also, as I said before, democracy challenge, because if we don't respond to that, we increase also the question of populism, and it is not good for Europe, I think. So yes, I hope to see you in November, and if you want to share with us some experiences, some data, and some ideas about this subject, I will be very happy to add this. And it's organized also with our European network, Time Use Initiative, and also with the association Tempo Territorial. I am the president of Tempo Territorial, which is the national French association for time policies. So be welcome in Strasbourg at the end of the year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marina. Thanks a lot for those concluding words and for letting us know all the activities that we have ahead in the year. Soon, of course, you will also receive some information of our main event, which is the Time Use Week, planned to be here in Barcelona next October. So I invite you all to stay tuned in our website. And to those asking for the materials, make sure you will receive all the presentations and this recording in YouTube. You will receive it, and you will find it in our website as well. And now, also before to wrap up, a quick reminder of our next session of the summer school. Tomorrow morning at 11:30, we have our session titled Time, Health and Habits, where we'll be touching upon the main concept of chronobiology, chronocities, which is also a concept that was shortly mentioned today, and time, mental health, and digital disconnection. And also tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m., our session on labor reduction debate, 4 days or fewer hours, which is again another hot topic in work flexibility. I hope to see you there. Thanks to all of you for your time, and until tomorrow.